Proverbs 8:22, all of a sudden, Sophia Chochmah speaks. And she says, I was the first thing that God created. I'm the first manifesting of this infinite, unknowable mystery. And if you have any Hindu background, I love, the Hindus have this wonderful way of understanding Brahman, the Godhead. They have two ways of speaking about it, probably more, but they have one called Nirguna Brahman. That's Brahman, God, without form. That's YHVH. That's the Yud He Vav He. And then there's Sadguna Brahman, which is God with form. That's you and me and the chairs and everything else. What she says in Proverbs 8 is that she is the first informing of the unformed. Right? She comes out of the unformed, and through her activity, she forms everything. She is the Tao. She is the way the universe works and everything in it. And it says that she delights in us, in people. A lot of the Bible, God delights in Jews. Canaanites, not so much. You know, Deuteronomy, it says when you get to the Holy Land and there's 7 peoples living in it, not 7 people, but 7 nations, just massacre them. It's okay. And you ask some rabbis, how can you, that's genocide. And they'll give you this amazingly, I don't know what the adjective is, I'm going to say myopic, but ironic maybe. So they give you this amazing thing. Well, those people were genetically inferior, therefore you could kill them. Oh my God. I mean, you could hear in the background, Dr. Mengele, you're wanted. And I mean, are you kidding me? But they have to excuse God for all these horrible things in the Bible. You don't need to excuse God. God didn't write the Bible. People wrote the Bible. Men wrote the Bible. And these were men who were insane. Let's hear it for insanity. Thank you. That's great. I mean, these were men. These were evil, narcissistic, patriarchal men who wrote texts to maintain their own power and prestige. Now, elsewhere in the Bible, there are other voices going on. Maybe they're men, maybe they're women, but there are other voices, not all this evil stuff. And a lot of the other voices are the voice of Sophia Chochmah, this divine mother. But in a patriarchal book, how does that survive? I keep asking the same question. One more thing before I answer the question. The rabbis had experiences of God, auditory experiences. God would speak to them. They called those experiences bat kol, B-A-T-K-O-L, bat kol. So bat is like, you go to a bat mitzvah. Bat means the daughter or daughter of the commandments. Kol is voice. When they would hear the voice of God, they heard what they called, in the Jewish text, right? They called a bat kol. They heard the daughter's voice. You'd expect them to hear Charlton Heston's voice. If not that, George Burns' voice. See, those are the older people. Their movies, Google them. They're probably on, Netflix or something, or YouTube maybe for free. But they heard the daughter's voice. They heard a woman's voice. Why would they say that? If not for the fact that everyone knew it was a woman's voice and they couldn't not say it. I think that the Divine Mother finds her way into the Bible because the men, and I'm going to assume they're men, who were writing these texts were in touch with the Divine Mother and could only honor their experience by writing it the way they wrote it. And that if they didn't write it in the feminine, if they didn't write it with the daughter's voice, if they tried to pass it all off as the son's voice or something, the people would know that was false. Because they all knew that it was feminine. But they just didn't want to let it out, you know what I mean? But they couldn't keep it completely hidden. What was true thousands of years ago is true now. Right? religions are still fighting against the divine feminine. There's an amazing mystic called Saint Louis de Montfort, early 1700s in France. And Louis de Montfort was in love with Mary. If that's for me, tell him I'll get it later. So he's in love with Mary. And he calls Mary eternal wisdom. He sees her as as the incarnation of Sophia, as the incarnation of Chachma, as the incarnation of Mother Wisdom. The woman who speaks in Proverbs 8 is now incarnate as Mary. Jesus is her child. She has prominence in Louis de Montfort's spiritual life. He says, if you want to get to Jesus, you got to go through Mom. So he's written a lot of books, but I translated one into English. It's called The Love of Eternal Wisdom. It's a very, very small book. I've been with the Daughters of Wisdom for decades by the time they asked me to do this for them. And what they wanted was my kind of loose renditions of the original book. The original was in French. The Catholic Church made an English, official English translation. But in their English translation, they took all of his mother language, all of his feminine pronouns, and made them masculine. So if you read the English and you didn't read the French, you'd have no idea that there was the Divine Mother in his life, let alone certainly not in his work. So they gave me the original French copy of that. They gave me the official Catholic translation, and they said, give us something else. So French is not my first language, or my second, third, fourth, right? But my son had taken a course in graduate school when I was doing this book, how to translate French into English. So I hired him to help me work this out. So the church is trying to take the mother and hide her, even in the work of their saints. But they can't keep her out entirely. That's why Mary appears everywhere. Right? You get Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady of Chartres. You never get Our Guy of Guadalupe. Right? Jesus shows up in pizzas. Sometimes you get a bagel and he's on the bagel. You know, a bagel has a hole in it. If you feel like a Thomas moment, you can put your finger in there. You can tell who's read their Bible and who hasn't by these jokes. But that's where Jesus shows up. And he doesn't say anything. He's just in a pizza. And then you can't eat the pizza, except in communion maybe. This is my body. Cheese and pepperoni. I like this Jesus. But Mary comes and she speaks to people. And that's not unique to the Catholic Church. In the Jewish tradition, it says that when the Jews were sent into exile, when we were kicked out of Israel by the Romans, we went into exile. She, Shekhinah, the Divine Mother, went with us to guide us. If you look at, and we will do this tomorrow, if you look at the story of what Christians call the fall, the garden, leaving the Garden of Eden, or what the Jews call the expulsion or the exile from the Garden of Eden, only Adam is exiled. I'll show you this tomorrow. Eve leaves. Only the Jews are kicked out of Israel, Palestine, and she leaves. She leaves to be their mother, to be their guide, to be their salvation. Eve does the same thing. Shekhinah does the same thing. Mary does the same thing. And because she does, in all these different forms, and we could go through Hindu forms and all that, but because she does, there is hope. Because she's with us even in the madness of this moment. So I'm not going to read this whole thing again, but just a couple parts of it. Just at the end, She crowns us not with what is glorious, but with what is greater than glory: weakness, nothingness, and poverty. Right? If you're a guy, glory is not weakness, nothingness, and poverty. Glory is, we are the champions, we are, right? Right? That's guys, you know. We will rock you, right? I mean, that's what we do. If we go on a men's retreat, it's just gorillas. in a sweat lodge. You know? There's no Native Americans. It's a bunch of white guys going, But that's not what the Divine Mother is offering us. The glory that's greater than glory is something else.